All right. So hello everyone and welcome to Livestream. So yeah, today I apologize for a little delay. Hi Martin, nice to have you here. Right, I was so busy, a little bit busy in the morning. I was, with my wife, choosing furniture for an apartment, and yeah. So yeah, thanks for your patience. And today, we're going to have a look at price action patterns. Right. Well, in the meantime, I also prepared myself some nice coffee. I've had a little bit of a rough morning, so I'm a bit tired, but we'll see, how it will go today. So as you can see, unfortunately, our Bitcoin trade is still, in a loss. So there is, not much that we can do regarding that. But yeah, we keep holding that trade and see how it goes. So I also got myself, Okay, so let me show you what I'm planning to work on today. And eventually, I will improve my paint skills, but here it is. So, price action patterns, right? When I started trading, I used to trade, price action patterns, and in price action, there are like multiple ways, to trade. And let me just show you one very simple way, how to abstract, price on an OHSC chart, right? So if you look at this OHSC chart, and let me remove the indicators. Okay, I think we have to go to indicator list, and I'm just going to delete everything that you see here, and let's let's zoom into the lower time frame. So what you oftentimes see, for example, in online during streams is how traders visualize highs and lows, right? And so what they mean by that is, for example, they look at some recent high. Let me make this line a bit thicker so you guys can see what I'm actually doing here. So I'm just going to make a big fat yellow line here. Hopefully that works. Maybe change the color a bit. This yellow is not so nice. Maybe dark blue. Let's use dark blue, right? So they connect the high and low, then they connect the low with the next high, and then, for example, from that next high they mark a low, right? And the question is like, is the next low here or here and here? And that's always up to definition or a time frame that you are trading. So I think there is a lot of things that we have to define when doing this. So for example, I could make a line here, or I could just treat this as a whole and make a line here. Again, up to subjective. It's a lot about subjectiveness. So maybe you do it like this, and then we finish drawing like this. So this is just an example, right? So most of you might argue with me that this is not correct what I'm doing, but let's look at it on the chart again, and let me just mark some important levels here. So what we have here is, if I go to the text text section, I am going to mark this is called our high, right? Or I just gonna mark it as H, and I think I'll just increase you know, the font size, maybe 32. Let's just make it large. So this is our high, which is here, and then we can also mark our low here, right? So a low is marked as L. And oftentimes in price action, what you have is that, you know, when there's a series of lower highs and lower lows, that is categorized as a downtrend. And therefore, what we can do is if we now, for example, go to this recent high, right? So people, you know, in pricing trading would consider this a lower high. And a series of lower highs and lower lows basically signifies a downtrend. So here we would do a lower low. And when you have, for example, this is, you know, an example how some of the people trade. 1 second, it seems like my music stopped. Okay, no, it's fine. So maybe a series of lower highs and lower lows. What people can usually do is, for example, they mark a horizontal level, which could be like a recent broken, you know, support resistance, which could be here. And after that, for example, so when the price retraces back to this level where we have another lower high, and hopefully I can like use Control CV. No, I cannot. So I'm going to add this lower high here. So people would oftentimes look for a short opportunity at this level. So here I would mark this with a down arrow here and make it a little bit bigger again. So I'm going to make a big arrow, right? So this is actually a setup that we're trying to replicate in Python. So first thing we need to do in Python is we need to basically identify what are the highs and lows, and then we have to determine if this high is lower high, lower low, and potential levels where price may reverse or, you know, break out. So this is actually the foundation of price action trading, and now we're going to proceed to you know, our Jupyter notebook and look at some methods how we can, for example, recreate this type of price action using Python. So yeah, let's just get started. And after that, of course, right, once we're able to identify that, I'm going to try, you know, to again try to develop a strategy that's going to backtest it, fully automated, and hopefully, if we find some profitable backtest, we will then, you know, code a trading bot that will trade price action. So this project is, you know, slightly, you know, more advanced than, you know, our regular other, you know, projects, such as, you know, computing basic indicators. And I think this one has a lot of potential because it's not very common, right? I feel like in algorithmic trading, most of the, you know, algorithms, they work mainly with fundamental data or, you know, technical data, but price action data is yeah, not very common. And hopefully we'll get some good results. And if not, you know, at least we've tried, and maybe you guys can help me improve the thing. And Martin I've searched a lot about this, found 2 ways. So I'm also, you know, happy to have your input on that. Using EMA cross to find high low for each phase. Hey Martin, you're amazing. You have, you know, I actually had like a similar idea where I'm going to use, actually I would use SMA crossing instead, and we would find the maximum between end candles. So, you know, respect, you really have a bright mind, and this is exactly the way, you know, I would code that. Except EMAs are with SMAs, so that's what I meant. So yeah, let's get started. Okay guys, so here we are in our IDE with our GitHub project. So all the code that I'm coding is accessible on my GitHub, and I'm going to share with you, quick links where you can access my GitHub page. So if you guys want to check out any of my apps and my the code repository, you can visit this website that I'm sending into the chat, and yeah, feel free to copy the code, and everything will be here. Oh, and by the way, I actually forgot to commit yesterday's files, so I'm just going to commit yesterday's files so the project is updated. So yesterday was the 9th, so this is the stream from the 9th October. Yeah, Martin. I think the implementation is difficult. A great idea starts with the idea, and then you just need to find someone who will do it for you. So I think that's the way you should do it. But that's why we can do it together right now. So I guess we're good. Okay, so we're going to create a new folder today. And today is the 10th of October. Yeah, and sadly it seems like my internet is kind of slow again. So again, very sorry about that. We'll work on that eventually. Or hopefully ASAP, like today. Okay, so now that we have this done, we will create a Drupal notebook, and I will call it price, or just PA, whatever, price action analysis. Okay, so we're going to create this price action analysis thing here. And now the question is, what do we want to trade? So we can trade Forex, we can try to trade indices. I would prefer just trade indices. So let's just go to the S&P 500 and maybe look at the hourly chart or the M15 chart, something like that. Let's start with the hourly. I think the H1 chart is quite safe when it comes to in terms of like reliability and consistency, because most of the time when I test lower time frames, the strategy doesn't look good. So I'm going to I decided to work on the S&P 500 like yesterday. So here I'm just going to copy this part here so we can extract the data. So here I'm just importing some libraries required for that, and now I'm going to copy this part, which will retrieve the OHLC data from the platform. Okay, now our OHLC data has been imported, and let me also quickly visualize the price chart for you guys so you can see what it looks like. And let me delete the indicator section for now because okay. So now, as you can see, we have the price chart, visualized, and this is what the S&P 500 looks like in a 3-year time range on the H1 chart. So now, what we're planning to do is, replicate what I've done in MetaTrader 5, looking at these patterns, and so let me actually open my Epic Pen again, so I can maybe draw some example how it could potentially look like. So here we are going to, for example, mark, let's say this is the recent high, so we would maybe create something like this. So that way we are simplifying the way the chart looks, and I'm just just doing it by freehand, and it's very accurate. But once we define the exact rules in Python, we know that the Python script will just follow the exact rules, which allows us to backtest these patterns. So for example, a strategy that we're going to work on is and I'm going to write it down for you right now, so you guys know what we are planning to work with. So what we're planning to work with is we want to first create a series of highs and lows for price action analysis. So that's step number one. Step number two, once we are able to determine highs and lows, we can then apply some price action strategies. And the first one we're going to do is a simple impulse and retracement strategy. So what we're going to work is when we have like an impulse, so we have a low, and here we have a higher high, which I'm going to mark as HH. We then have a retracement, and then we have like a continuation, right? So then we have a higher low, and then what we can do is, for example, if you see here, like we have the recent high. So the question is, where do we set the take profit? So we can like create a strategy that, for example, takes the take profit at the most recent higher high, or we can do something like an ABCD like extension and test if that strategy works, right? So ABCD means that we have equidistant lower to higher high to higher low to our next predicted level. So this is our potential take profit 1, and this is the take profit number 2. And again, we don't know what the result of the strategy will be, right? Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe we need to apply some filters. Maybe we need to analyze different markets. So this right now is just a concept, and the main goal of this is not find a price action strategy, but just analyze whether price action strategies may even work. And for that we are doing this as a first thing, and then we can like take it to a next step, and then eventually, right, we can also look for price action patterns, which for example is just analyzing a series of highs and lows. So for example, if you have like a consolidation of a high being here, another high being here, that's an ugly H, and then we have a low and we have a low here, and then this part will be considered our breakout, which I'm going to mark as BO. We can, for example, try to continue in that trend, or maybe if we look for some reversal patterns, maybe we could look for some reversal here. So I'm going to mark as a reversal. So this is an example of trading a so-called flag, and in price action we don't know what actually works, because you see, for example, then some channels, like a lot of traders, they trade like channels, and what do they also trade? And maybe if we have time, like me personally, I'm not like Fibonacci. For some reason, people tend to use it, and we can like backtest whether the 61.8% ratio is actually legitimate. So is this just some fugazi, that has been invented by some trading guru, or is Fibonacci ratio actually relevant in trading? So all of that we're going to cover in this price action pattern recognition Python series, and I think this is some type of content that we'd be covering for next a week or two, right? So this is actually a very advanced project, and for me it's like very exciting, because now we are not just again computing SMAs, Bollinger Bands. We are actually looking for actual patterns in the markets, geometries, right? So does geometry work in trading? And a lot of people say it's a scam. Some people say they live and die by it. And so I'm very interested what we're gonna have. And even if it doesn't work out, and even if we look like everything's random, at least we'll have a very rough picture, or in-depth analyzed picture, how price action works from an algorithmic trading perspective. Okay, let's start with Martin's initial first and compute highs and lows for each section. I think that is was an excellent idea. And so basically what I'm going to do is now we have to choose what type of periods we want to use. So for me, the best way to adjust the periods of the simple moving averages. So here I'm going to extract the SMA from OHLC. So let's say I'm going to start with SMA 10 is equal to OHLC open. So I'm taking the open price, I'm taking the rolling method with the window 10, and then I compute the average value. And then I'm going to do the same with SMA 200. Okay, so we have that done. So let me just add this indicator into the price chart. So this library, create price fig, it is part of ATJ Algo trading package. So if you're interested in that, you can just simply download it using pip install ATJ Algo trading. And I think I've already made some content on that, so you can just check it out on my website. So I'm just going to share my PyPy package with you in the chat real quick for those of you who want to try it out. And as I promised, the documentation is still on the way. So there's still documentation, but you can basically just copy the things that I'm copy the things that I'm doing right now in the Jupyter notebook. Okay, SMA 10 and SMA 200. So now that we look closer, we see now how the charts react, and I feel like SMA 200 is a little bit too much of a long period, because then the highs and lows are not being marked that how would I say like that frequently, because I want the price action to be a little bit more reactive. So what I'm going to do instead is, instead of SMA 200, maybe for the beginning I'll use SMA to analyze the price action, or SMA 20. So let's just practice with SMA 50. And now we look at the chart now. We see that the prices are now a bit more reactive. But still, I feel like it's still not good enough. Let's do SMA 20. Okay, so now we're actually, very trying to trade very fast. Oh, and the problem is, if you see now, I remained the SMA, but the problem is I didn't change the rolling. So that is actually the issue, why the SMA hasn't updated. Okay, so now it looks like that we have the crossovers more or less, in better control. And now, for example, we see a section here where the SMA is below the red line, so we would mark the low here. And then when the SMA crosses above the upper line, we would mark the high at this period here. And so how do we do that? So first of all, we need to compute when we have a bullish crossover and when we have a bearish crossover. And we can do that very easily actually. And to do that, we just need to measure the SMA distance, right? So we just need to subtract the SMA 10 from the SMA 200 and look at the results. So if the SMA is above the red line, it means it's greater, and that value would be positive. So I'm going to create a metric called OHLC SMA dist, which is stands for distance, and it is very similar to like MACD, because MACD is actually an indicator using the distances between the simple moving averages. it basically measures the convergence or divergence, and we're doing something similar, but instead of measuring if something's converging, diverging, we're just measuring the highs and lows of each period. So here OHLC SMA 10 minus OHLC SMA 50, and I think instead of like calling 10 and 20, I will just call it fast and slow now, because whenever I want to change the values in the future, I don't have to rename the entire column. So just assume that this is the fast SMA and the slow SMA, because this is lower period, this is bigger period. We'll rename that thing here. Logic is, if the distance between the crossovers is negative and the previous distance is positive, it is basically a bearish crossover, and vice versa, it would be a bullish crossover. So I'm going to also create a column called previous SMA distance, and the previous SMA distance is basically our SMA distance with shifted value 1. All right. Okay, let's now try to compute the crossover. So define find crossover. And in find crossover, what we have is, so if X SMA distance is greater than 0, and or let's just do greater than 0 is bullish, because we need to also check for a condition where it's actually the same. So I'm going to consider that as a bullish crossover in this special case. And if previous SMA distance is less than 0, then we return bullish crossover, and I'm going to call it 1 again, which stands for bullish crossover. And then else if, and we're doing the inverse condition. So if SMA distance is less than 0 and the previous distance is greater or equal, so actually this is less than equal to, or actually like this, so just the greater values should be greater than equal to 0, then we return a bearish crossover, which will be marked as -1. So now we have to apply this function on our data frame. So HLC just crossover is equal to OHLC dot apply, and then we need to apply the find crossover with axis is equal to 1. And yeah, I'm going to display OHLC down here so we can have a look at the new columns that we've now computed. So now that we look, at the place here, so let's try to find, some crossovers where the crossover value is not 0. And it seems like here the crossover section only has NaN values, so it's only 0. So for some reason, the conditions here are not met. So the SMA distance must be greater than 0 and the previous one must be less than 0. Let me just return 0 to see, what that will do. So it should return 0. And it seems, I made some mistake in the logic with the computation crossovers. So let me look at it again. So here the crossover distance is positive and the previous SMA distance is negative. Let me also just plot the SMA distance so I can maybe find the issue. We use px.line OHLC with x is equal to time and y is equal to SMA distance. So as you can see, sometimes the values are negative and sometimes the values are positive. And in our case, when the previous value is negative and the x positive, it should return 1. And maybe it's just a mistake, on the visualization. So maybe I'm just going to create a very quick, filter OHLC crossover is equal to 1, and maybe that could work. And actually it works. So as you can see, the logic works, and here all of these values where the crossover is equal to 1 means that there is a bullish crossover. So for example, on the 12th of November 2021 at 1900 we had a bullish crossover. You can test that by going to 2021 on the 12th of November. So it must be somewhere here. So let's have a look. So 12th of November is here at 1900. And as you can see, it's this candle here, so it's 1900, so this candle value, it's 1900, is crossover above the red one. So this is how we find the crossover, and it works. So that is great. So now what we need to do is we need to identify the series and the high and lows for each period. And now how do we do that? And that could be a bit tricky, and I used to do it in the past, where I was just accumulating the crossovers and grouping by each crossover section. So let me just give me just a few minutes, to find the best solution and think about how I've done this. Because I feel like what we should do is maybe we should separate two columns, to separate into bullish crossovers and bearish crossovers. So let me just look at some examples. Can we use this in Indian market as well? Ashish HD asks, Nifty 50. I believe you can. So every market is different. So what I'm actually showing you right now is just a method or technique to analyze the markets. But I believe that every market is different and maybe requires different optimizations for a strategy. So depending if you want to trade price action patterns on the Indian market, you'd have to analyze, does it tend to trend or does it tend to range? What the retracement value should be for each market, because I believe it works differently for each. Every concept I'm teaching here to any market you want to trade. So we have a crossover. Then we have a crossover here. Right, so actually, I feel like we don't even need to measure bearish crossovers, because if you have a bullish crossover here, and then another bullish crossover here, oh yeah, it means like it defines when the crossover ends, so that is actually important. So I think I have a rough idea how to do that. So instead of, having a crossover like this in a function, so I will just filter for a bullish crossover like this, and then I will filter for bearish crossovers within a function. So define find bearish crossover. So I'm going to create two columns. Can you just check Nifty 50 chart real quick? Actually set up in price action use is kind of similar, so I just want overall overview. I hope I'm not annoying you, just discussing. Yeah, don't worry. That's why, I'm live streaming, so you guys can ask questions. And, if I'm busy, that I would tell you that, sorry, I can't, but I believe that my broker doesn't have Nifty 50. So maybe I can't help you with that. But maybe if we can collaborate, what you could do is you could maybe find a broker on MT5 that has Nifty 50, and then if you provide my credentials on the live stream, I can try to analyze that for you. So here I'm going to write a task for you if any one of you wants to help me. So please find a broker on MT5 who offers Nifty 50 and send me the MT5 credentials in the chat. So if you could do that for me, it doesn't have to be right now, it can be at some later stream. If you do that for me, I'll be very happy to, perform some analysis on the Indian market. So here we're going to look for the bearish crossovers. And here I'm going to add, my variable x. Here we return. I'm actually just gonna return 1 as well, which stands for true. And then it's not else because it's the first if statement. And here we have to add else return 0. So now I'm going to do some magic. So here I'm going to do bullish crossover. And then I'm going to compute the bearish crossover. So now I'm going to run this again. And now I should have two columns. One is named bullish crossover and the other one is named bearish crossover. So how do we work with this now? So I was thinking each section can be indexed with a number, right? So let's say our chart starts, let's start from the beginning. You have a testing account, so if it's a demo account and you don't mind sharing the credentials, you can just send in the chat, or if you want to save the credentials, then I suggest that you send it to my email address and I'm going to share it to you now. So it's cac2@atjtraders.com. And once I'm done with the price action analysis, maybe at the end of the stream or in the next stream, we can have a look at Nifty 50. Okay, and so we just keep in touch, and I'll see how I can help with it. So ideally, don't send me a live account. That would be quite irresponsible. But if you give me just a demo account that I can, test on and put some test rates on, I think that would be great. Or if you can create a new account, that's also fine. Amazing, thank you. Okay, so now going back. So if you look at this, right, let's start in the beginning. We know that this is like the beginning, right? So we are looking for the first bullish crossover. And the first bullish crossover is this one, right? So everything from here to the next bearish crossover is like the first section. And I think the first bearish crossover is somewhere very far. Maybe I should actually use SMA slow with the pure 20. I think that would be more reactive to the price action. Alright, let's scroll here. So let's say this part and this part is like section number 1. This part and this part is section number 2. I can visualize that like this. So this is the first part, you know. Then this is a second block with the crossovers. And then we have the third block. And this crossover is very long because, you know, we don't see any bearish crossover here. So all of these are little impulses, and we can basically index it by the amount of crossovers that we have. So now just watch me what I'm going to do. I'm going to compute a column called bullish crossover section. And that section is equal to bullish crossover dot cumulative sum, and the other one, the bearish crossover section, is the same thing but just for a bearish one. So we just here rewrite this to bearish, and we write this to bearish as well. And now if you look at this, right, we see that there is, you know, a bullish crossover section and a bearish crossover section. So we know that, for example, if the section is 474, which is the last one, right? So we are in the section where we have the, which is this one. It's right here. This section is the bullish crossover number 474. And it ends until the next bearish crossover section, which has not been defined yet. So we always need to compute from each bullish crossover section to the next bearish crossover section. And one thing that we also have to consider is that we don't know if at the start of the chart we are starting with the bullish crossover section or the bearish one, right? Because this value is bigger than the bearish crossover section. So we know that each section, that this chart has started with a bullish one, 474. She just asked, the chart in the left that is positioned, I believe it's TradingView charts, right? If you open on TradingView, I guess it will open Nifty 50. No, the charts I'm using here in my IDE is actually Jupyter Notebook chart, and the library I'm using is called Plotly. So Plotly Express, the library, and it's basically a Python visualization library for data analysis. I'm using their, you know, library for the OHLC data, so I can visualize the candlesticks. So unfortunately, you know, I can't open Nifty 50 here. Okay, so now the question is, you know, how do we define a section? Because when we have bullish crossover, then the bullish crossover section might also be, you know, considered as the one, the bearish one. So I think I need to subtract the bullish crossover section from the bearish crossover section. That might, you know, Yeah, now it's getting difficult. I don't think it works that way, but we are very close. We are like very close. So I think, you know, we'll get there slowly. Or actually, I think I have figured it out. So if we cross above here, everything until next place crossover, we can try to compute the maximum, and so on and so on. So in theory, we don't need any bearish crossover here. All we need is to just compute the section, and then for each section that we have, we need to compute them. So I think I figured it out. My broker won't let you access because of demographic reason, not even with VPN. So the Git repo that you have provided, I can incorporate it? Yes, you can. So theoretically, if you use my GitHub repository and you connect your trading account, you know, with that, you can absolutely use your own MetaTrader 5 account that has Nifty 50, and yeah, feel free to use that. So DF, high, low. So now we're, or let's do like a high, low DF is equal to OHLC. Now we're grouping by the section, group by crossover section. And then we're just going to compute the columns that we need. And we will need the section high is equal to high and the maximum value, and then we will need the section low is equal to the low and the minimum values. So I think that should be it. Just guidance step 1, just small introductory overview. I'm sorry, man. I think I don't have any time for that, but I recommend you can check out my, you know, previous streams that you have there, and yeah, so hopefully you'll understand. I might try to make a course so everyone can watch it, and I promise to make it by the end of the year. So yeah, it's time to work on it. Okay, so now we have the bullish crossover section, and we know the highs and lows of each section. And now the question is, you know, where do we also find the highs and lows for each section, right? The time when the section high and low happen. So I think that is also good, you know, to analyze. But for now, let's just visualize have here. So here I'm going to display this. And I'm also create a line figure, so px line section, so it's a bit shorter and easier. And here I will just shorten it to, again, crossover section. Let me just look, at Stack Overflow to, find some help with the code. So guys, I'm still looking for something in the code. So I'm just trying to find how I can also extract the time of the section high, and like how I can also extract the low section high. Like theoretically, I could iterate and like try to locate all these values and add them. Theoretically, I could do that. And you know what? I'm actually gonna do that. I think that is actually not so bad, even though it's like computationally ineffective, I would say. We just want to get the work done, and then some of you guys can help me with finishing the project. Okay. So, yeah, I'm sorry, I've been thinking for a bit now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply merge the times of section highs and section lows, and I think that would be the easiest way to do it. So I'm going to create new cell. And here I'm going to create a data frame OHLC2 is equal to OHLC. Radio group by. Actually, this is not necessary. We can just take this high-low df is equal to high-low df dot merge. I'm going to create the second data frame OHLC2 is equal to OHLC dot copy, and from that data frame I only need the time, the crossover section, and then the high and low values. Okay. So now we have the crossover section high and low. Let me just display this data frame. OHLC2. So displaying by itself, we have the crossover section, time, high and low. Now we can display the high-low DF here. This high-low DF. I want to, have section high and section low chronologically next to each other. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to split those two data frames. I'm going to concatenate them. So yeah, this is getting a bit more, intellectual intensive, so apologies whether I sound confused, because I am, but I think I almost got it. So let's just create a high DF is equal to our high-low DF. And here I just take the crossover section and section high for its data frame. And then here I take my low DF, and that is equal to high low DF with the crossover section, section low. And here I'm going to change the value a bit. So high DF, I'm going to call the type, right, of the section, or actually the type here is high, and here I'm going to rename the section high, which is actual value, to the actual value. Columns is equal to section high, rename this to value. And then I want to create a sequence, because high is prior to low for sorting later. So high DF sort sequence is equal to 0. So this is just for future sorting references once I concatenate or convert this data frame into one long one, and I'm going to show you in just a moment what I'm trying to do here. So here with the high DF, then here we have the low DF, and here the sort sequence is 1, the type of this thing is low, and then the section low column will be renamed to value. I'm just going to create a copy So these two data frames are individual copies. And now I'm going to, create a high-low df2, right? I just call it high-low df2 is equal to high df, or first use pandas.concat. So I'm adding these two data frames together, and I will need to import pandas spd. And import that. So here pd.concat, and I'm adding those two data frames. And then once I create this data frame, I'm going to sort the data frame. And we're sorting by crossover section. And then we're sorting by the sort sequence that we have created here. Oh, and I high-low df. Oh, and I need to do s index is equal to false, because right now this column is not accessible. So s index is equal to false, which is this column here, and that way we can add it into our data frame. Sort values. Okay, now this data frame is done, so we can now display this data frame. So as you can see here, we have the crossover section and we have the sort sequence here. So as a result, oh, it seems like we only have type high here, because we have the low df right here. So I just need to check. So 0 high. So everything here is type high for some reason. So everything is section high, high section low value. Let's just see what this looks like without anything. And I'm gonna ignore this part because we're not using it yet. So this is very strange, because all these values here are high, but we are very close, right? So here we have a data frame of all high and low values, so eventually we'll get there. So high df is our high-low df that we've created here, and it has a section low and a section high. Let me just see if this thing returns anything, and it doesn't. Oh, and I see. Here I have the high df, here this thing should be the low df. So that is the reason for my mistake. And if I run this again, now that should work. So now if we sort it based on crossover section sort sequence, now we have a high, we have a low, we have a high, we have a low. So everything is amazing because we have everything sorted correctly. And now the only thing we need here now is we need to sort it, you know, create, like reset the index. So now I'm going to reset the index now. And now we have the chronological highs and lows in our data frame. So now if I visualize this chart, and now I can, you know, just remove this because I already know what the end result or end data frame looks like. So we have the highest and low here. So I'm going to create line for px line. I'm going to put in the high low df. On the x-axis we have high low df dot index. And on the y-axis we have the value. So this is what it is now. So here we have the series and lows, as you can see. And now, for example, you know, this doesn't look, you know, that interesting, but if we add it or overlay it into our OHLC chart, we can then use this data to, you know, analyze that further. So now what we need to do is we just need to compute the time where we find this value. And now I'm just going to, you know, do some quick checks. Yes, I'm just reading some Stack Overflow things here. For a reset index, apparently resets the original things. So if I do reset index and print that, maybe that could help us. And I should actually remove this as the index. Yeah, and cell doesn't work. Okay, I'll just stick to my brute force method now. So it's not very elegant, but we'll manage somehow. So I'm just going to use merge in this example. So I'm going to create a high-low df3 is equal to high-low df2, and we're merging data from our original data frame. And the data that we need from original data frame is the time value. I feel like we need to actually add the data prior. What we can do is we can add it like before here. So high df is equal to high df dot merge ohlc, and here we just need the time and the high value and also the breakout crossover section. And then here we do on is equal to crossover section with left on. Actually, left on is, or maybe we can do it in the prior before. Yeah, left on is crossover section and value. And then right on is crossover section and then the high. And high is equal to high df dot group by crossover section, and we just take the first value that is available to us, and then we can apply the same logic down here, and hopefully this is how we solve that issue. So instead here we use the low, and we will need to use the low df instead, and let's see if that actually works. And as you can see, now when we merge, we actually have the time values here. So everything is great because now we have the time saved, and now we can try to overlay this data into our original OHSE data frame here. And yeah, let's try to do that. So now that we have the time here, let's try to create a line plot and overlay the data in that. So theoretically, if I plot the graph here, instead of using index, I could actually use time instead. So this is a time-based high and low, and it does look kind of bad. So maybe there's still some error on my side, but it does look somewhat okay. Maybe sorting is not exactly perfect, I think I might know the problem, because I was computing the highs for only a single. So maybe the initial idea of, you know, finding bullish crossovers and doing the bearish crossover, I should have done the analysis separately. At this point, I feel like I should have just iterated through these sections. But well, I'm gonna have a quick toilet break, so I'll be right back. So please give me a few minutes and then we can continue. All right, I'm now back, and yeah, let's see what went wrong here. So the good thing is we're alternating between highs and lows. So here, for some reason, we found a high sequence that came around. So we have two low sequences before two high sequences, and that happened in November 2021, 2nd November 2021. So let's have a look at the example. Here it is. So it looks like the issue is here, right, where we have a lot of crossovers and there seems to be some sort of confusion. Maybe it is the equal sign and so on. So here we have the first crossover. You look at that sequence. So we have the first crossover, a bullish one, at 1800. Oh yeah, so I think the mistake in what I've made is that I actually saved the time of the crossovers, but not the times of the highs. So this is actually a mistake on my side. So this entire section here is wrong. So for that reason, I need to actually delete this, and that is a mistake on my part. So I want to save, other columns such as the time, other stuff with the group by. Oh yeah, so actually I'm so stupid, I could just save the time here. So it's a crossover section and then the time. And then if I print the high-low DF here, or display. So now we actually save the individual times of the crossover sections. Actually, we don't need that again. So I might have find a different solution actually, and that one could also work. So assuming for our OHLC data, which is this one, how about we just sort the values? By the high, and then so we need to sort it like as a list. So based on the crossover section, and then the high, and ascending is in this case false, is true, and then false. So then here we have the highest higher value for each one. So then we do group by crossover section, and then we keep the first value. And now we have each crossover section here, and then here we just do as index is equal to false, and that way we have the high value for each crossover section with the correct times. So actually I can use this now. So highs is equal to this. And because we're taking minimum here, I can do true and true, then we keep the first value, and as a result we are actually keeping what we need. And then as a result, all this computation that I've made are actually useless. So maybe, we have solved it with this different solution. So I guess we're getting closer. And just in case, I'm not going to delete it. So what I'm going to instead is I'm just going to take the values and start, working on it with this here. And so now all I need is I want the time, or actually, so here highs df is equal to this, and then I'm just gonna keep only the columns that I'm interested in. So here it is the cross over sequence, then the time, and then the high. And yeah, I don't need anything else. Then here the type of this value is high, or is a section is a high, and then I can rename the same way I did here. It's highest df. I can rename this and I will rename this to values, and I'm going to apply the same logic down here. But instead I'm just going to use, lowest df. Here this is a low. Here this is my lowest df again. Here I need the low value. Hopefully this is all we need. So then we can use concat. So I can do a highs lows df is equal to, when we concat this, so we're just adding the values together. So this is the lowest df. This is the highest df. And now if I run this, oh yeah, and here this is not the crossover section, it's the crossover sequence. Oh, this is the low, not the min. Okay, this is amazing, because now I can also now add the sort sequence, right? So here the sort sequence by which I'm going to sort is equal to 0, and here this sort sequence is equal to 1. And now I'm just going to sort this. I'm going to sort it by the cross over section, and then I'm going to sort it by the sort sequence. And now it looks like this, and hopefully if we, oh no, let me visualize this again. So I'm gonna just display this, and I'm going to call px.line highs and low df, x is equal to time and is equal to the value. This is high, this is low. I need to rename this. And yeah, it sort of works, but in some instances it still shows some weird data, because then sometimes the high precedes the low in some cases, and that is still very annoying. So I feel like in this crossover section part here we are still having some issues. And yeah, let's have a look at an example. So we see that on September 27 we are still having the issues. So here, for example, we have a high, then a low, and then the high. So September 27, 2022. Let's see what's going on here. So September 22nd, 2022. Okay, so here we have many crossovers, and let's see, what the problem seems to be. So the first crossover happened on 26 at 20:00. So this is the section low at 20:00. We have a low, and that's correct, right? Because here you can see that we have a low at 20:00. It's here, and then the question is, where is the next high? So next high we can find on the 27th of September at 16:00. So the 27th to 00, and for some reason the SMAs here are very confusing, because the blue one is the fastest SMA, and because it's a blue one, it's above, this is like it needs to find a maximum value for this period until the next bullish crossover, which is here. So here this would be 26, 22:00 should be the session high. But it's not. Yes, I believe there is still something wrong, like with my logic, how I'm doing that, and I still wonder, what it is. So in this crossover section I have to look for a minimum, and this crossover section I have to look for a maximum. I think prior to this crossover I need to look for a maximum. Anything prior to this crossover I have to look for maximum. So yeah, so I believe that the issue with everything I've made so far is that in reality I have to check by bullish crossovers and bearish crossovers. So maybe I spend 45 minutes or 1 hour on this thing. Like, it's not useless, but we need to work slightly differently, right? Because the way I'm identifying the highs and lows is not correct. So we just go back to bullish, and it's funny, my initial idea was correct, but I thought that it was not. So here we do the bullish crossover section, and then I need to compute the bearish crossover section. So again, like let's check visually what I should be doing. So everything below here I'm just gonna disregard and like start from fresh, unfortunately. But you know, sometimes that's the truth when you have to code. Sometimes you do something wrong and then you have to redo it. So this is the case today where we're redoing it. Okay, so now we have the crossover section. So for instance, this is a crossover. When we have bullish crossover, we want to check from the first to second bullish crossover what's the minimum value. And when we have a bearish crossover, we want to check from the bearish to bearish section what's the highest value. So maybe it might be the other way around. So we have bullish crossover here. We want to find let's look again. Here we have some very nice examples of highs and lows. Now the market crosses above, and then until the next bullish crossover here, we just want to check the maximum value. So we compute this is the minimum value, this is the maximum, this is the minimum. Like here the examples are very clear. It's like very easy to follow. The only problem sometimes when crossover is like very small, it is actually causing these issues. So it's always like about the current sequence that's important. So right now I'm thinking like, should I do like iterate, you know, line by line, you know, like the zigzag indicator, count the highs and lows, or should I like still use this approach, you know, where we're using the moving averages? And because you know, I already started like this, I somehow want to finish that to make it like more reliable, because here it is very easy to do. Like you just take a section from the first bullish crossover to the other bullish crossover, right? So everything in this section we want to compute the high, or actually everything until the bearish crossover. So from the first bullish crossover to the bearish crossover, here in this section we want to compute the high, or from bearish to bearish and then from bullish to bullish. Because sometimes what happens is that sometimes the bearish value is before bullish one, so then our calculations do not work. Shimo. Yeah, everything's great, thank you. Right now I'm struggling with the code, and like I'm trying to find highs and lows, you know, like trying to do some price action analysis, but I'm right now working with, you know, some bugs and some issues. So what we have here is, you know, I create some series of highs and lows, but in some cases you see that, you know, for example here, right, we see that the highs and lows are not chronologically ordered, and that is actually a problem. So I always want like to alternate between highs and lows, and hopefully I'll find a way to fix that. I think in the past I made something like that, but you know, I really want to figure out myself because, you know, I've already been struggling a bit. No, there is no AI helper on this kind of thing, because AI works with things that exist, but if it doesn't exist, how is AI supposed to help you with that, right? So we have to use our own brains to figure it out. But if you're able to use AI and help me, I'd be very happy. But I don't think AI is a solution to anything, like everything, sorry, not anything, everything. So I feel like, yeah, the issues arise when we have something like this here. So yes, I'm looking for some libraries that help you compute the zigzag indicator. I think TALib also has zigzag, so maybe we might be using that. So as you can see, some time series data here, and this like creating these you know, points, highs and lows for that. So here are the calculations for a zigzag. But yeah, but now I'm just looking at alternatives at this point. I really wish, you know, to, you know, solve it now. And I think, you know, maybe getting a break, you know, would help, and then getting back to it, because, you know, we're not very far away from the actual solution, right? Because we almost have our highs and lows like defined here. It's just, you know, these little things here. So, you know, we have a crossover section for each high and low. Let me just maybe draw it in Paint, and maybe we can see if maybe I'll figure out something. Because right now I'm computing based on highs, and sometimes, you know, drawing might help you. So let's say we have price looking like this, and then we have a moving average, you know, following that. Yeah, I want to backtest, you know, the highs and lows, highs and low strategy using the moving averages, and I need to, you know, define the exact zones or like, you know, pivot points to, you know, find where the high and low is defined. So that is my yeah what I'm trying to achieve right now. So here, this is a break high. This is another break high, and this is now break low, and this is now break low. Okay, so I see what's going on, because if I just take this into consideration and I take this into consideration, it means that the lows are shifted, you know, by some value. And when I want to look for the minimum, I should look like in this range. And when I want to look for the maximum, I should be looking in this range. Or hopefully, you know, that's what I'm hoping. Or maybe the entire like method using estimate crossovers, it works sometimes, but not always. Because you see, you know, sometimes it works, but sometimes it doesn't. So probably, like if I like yeah, but working on higher time frames is a bit easier because now you see the exact zones. So for example, here you see the high, then here you see the low, and then you see the high here again, and then the low. And as I said, this is a very big project, so there is a lot of work to do, and we're still stuck in the beginning. Don't even have the highs and lows yet. So high, low. Okay, so maybe the problem is that I'm like measuring by section. So I should actually measure low from the crossover low until breakout high, and not until next low, right? Because during this period we can have a bigger low, and that might cause more issues. So the section low that we're always looking for is always between the low and the breakout high, and the high we're looking is from you know, crossover high to crossover low. So maybe in order to fix that, we need to change the entire logic here. I'm not sure what you mean, Shimo, right now, but could you please elaborate? Yeah, maybe we can just ditch this idea and just use a zigzag indicator. So this is the formula. So we can try implementing this formula, yeah, into the integer calculation. So I'm just gonna save it just in case I will need in the future. So I think I will continue on this project, off stream later in the evening, and hopefully, I might find a way to solve this. Because currently I feel like I'm a little bit lost. And then I'd let you know. So yeah. All right, guys. So yeah, I guess unfortunately, we tried, to solve at least the highs and lows during the stream, and we were not able, as I've had some issues with the highs and lows with the chronological order. But I think we're in a good way. So on my next stream, probably tomorrow, so I will just schedule a new stream for tomorrow, and we'll just continue where we left off. And hopefully very soon we will be able to measure highs and lows, and as a result we can then measure some price action patterns. So I just schedule a stream right now for tomorrow at 2 p.m. as usual. Alright, so thank you everyone who have joined the stream. Sorry about the slow progress today and the bad internet connection. Tomorrow I have a new internet cable, and hopefully it will be resolved with my internet provider. So thank you for coming today, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.